Forbes India Leadership Awards 2023.
As they say, save the best for the last. So this is going to be a very promising session. I have two great speakers with me. Can we please give them a round of applause, please? The topic for the debate is whether India is insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy. Let me welcome my first speaker, Rajeev Thakkar, who is the CIO and Director at PPFAS Mutual Fund. Rajiv, please take the podium to my right. My second speaker is Saugata Bhattacharya, who is the Chief Economist at Axis Bank. Sir, if you could take the podium to my left, please. Thank you so much to Rajiv and to Saugata for your patience, and I'm so looking forward to this debate. I'll just go through the rules once again. As Shruti explained, you have total 8 minutes. Round 1 is where you will make your open speech for 3 minutes. After that, the floor will be open for 2 minutes in which you can refute specific arguments that you want to make. And the last round is going to be the closing argument of 3 minutes again. So you need to adhere to your time limit so that when the gong goes off, you need to end your argument. So are we good to start?
Yes.
But before that, we'll come to the audience with a quick audience poll to just get a sense of what they feel, what the house view is about the topic. So I'll repeat the topic once again. Is India insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy? You have the voting meters on your table. Press A if you agree, and B if you disagree. Your time starts now. All right, so please put the pads back on the table. Could we have the results, please? So 62% feel that India is not insulated, and the balance 38% feel that India is insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy. So a good note to start the debate on. Let me start with you, Rajiv. So you believe that India is not insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy. All right, over to you. Your time starts now.
Thank you, audience. I believe most people are already in my camp, so my job is easier, and correspondingly, Saugata's job is that much more difficult. There is something called the chaos theory, and in popular culture, it is referred to as a butterfly flapping its wings somewhere, and that in turn causes a tornado somewhere else. What does this mean? We have seen videos where you have the domino effect, a small pebble falls, and a larger tile falls, and an even larger tile falls. Now this is fine as far as theory goes, but let's flash back to 3 years back. Who would have thought that a small viral outbreak in a region of China would a few months down the line lock us up all at our residences and would bring the world to a grinding halt? Recently we are hearing about Swiss bank being in trouble and merger happening and things like that. I don't have the data, but anecdotally people are saying Russia and Ukraine started fighting. There were sanctions. Accounts were frozen of some Russian nationals. That created a scare among a lot of people. What if Europeans freeze our money? So let's withdraw money from there. And one thing leads to another, and everything comes to a grinding halt. So I definitely think India is not insulated. whether we look at our IT services, whether we look at our generic pharma exports, auto ancillary, global commodities like metals and oil, all of these are connected with the global markets. Remittances that we get from the Middle East, from North America, Western Europe, those are subject to global conditions. There are Tatas, Ambanis in the room, maybe some Birlas. Can Tatas as a house say that we don't care what happens to Jaguar Land Rover? Definitely no. Hindalco is dependent on what happens to Novelis. Bharti Airtel has African operations and so on and so forth. Tata Steel Chorus, Tata Consumer with their Tetley operations. So definitely there are interlinkages. Whatever happens in the West will definitely have an impact in India. And I have 30 seconds to go. Lastly, coming to monetary policy. Sure, inflation control is a worry for RBI, but is that the only factor? Today in a world of mobile capital, we have to worry about exchange rates and capital flows as much as we worry about the domestic inflation. So definitely if the West is in a tightening cycle, we cannot have lower interest rates here. I definitely think we are not insulated. I'll cede the 4 seconds. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Rajiv. Saugata, you agree? You are convinced?
Yes, yes, of course. So, Neha, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Over to you now. Your time starts now.
So, thank you very much and Forbes for this opportunity. So, एक तो है, you can see the risk. Audience don't care about risk. So, you've seen the opportunities. House was full. We are now talking about risk. This is the situation. So, half of my job is done, but I agree with you, Rajesh Saab, that, the audience, I thought you were doing the difficult, the heavy lifting. Now it turns out that I'm doing the heavy lifting to try to convince the audience. So before I even get into this, what does insulated mean? We don't want India to be insulated, Baba. Because that would be, the desire. We are trying to integrate with the world. We don't want to be insulated. So we need to find a definition of what insulated means. Insulated, remember, it was just about 10 years back, July 2013, the taper tantrum. बहुत हाल खराब था. So this was really, really bad. Compared to that, we were part of the fragile five. Compared to that, look at it now. The Fed says the US will grow at 0.4%. Europe will probably grow at 0 or less. We, if things, fingers crossed, if things don't go horribly wrong, we will grow at 6%. RBI says 6.4. Let me put it to the floor. Are we insulated or not? So again, you have to put, when you say insulated or whatever, you have to have a benchmark. You have to have a reference to what you're saying. We don't want to be insulated, but not insulated in a manner where global shocks hit us so badly that our growth comes down from the earlier 7% down to 3% or 4%. If that doesn't, we need to slow down. We need to be integrated with the world. We need not to be insulated. If we are growing at 8% in the world, which is growing at 1%, there will be hazard problems that will come in. We don't want that. Yeah, because there are other things that will work through. Other problem is our fundamentals have become so strong. Corporate balance sheets, you heard all the previous speakers, the previous panel, right? They will go through a slowdown. That's part of the business cycle. But our business cycle is so much more moderate than the business cycles that the other guys are facing. All the problems with SVB Bank and the others sitting here in India at a bank which is regulated by the RBI, I find it difficult to believe that SVB could go through this in a situation with that concentration of deposits and absolutely no risk management, and the Federal Reserve and the FDIC didn't spot this problem coming in. To that extent, our banking system is superb, our financial sector is very, very resilient. This is the word that comes again and again to mind, resilient. That's what is not the case with the global economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saugata. Rajiv, you have 2 minutes to specifically refute any points you wish to.
Sure. So the mandatory economist joke, Harry Truman said that he wanted a one-handed economist because all the economists he came across said on the one hand this will happen, on the other hand something else will happen. luckily for Harry Truman, he did not meet fund managers like me who can argue simultaneously some 5 different points. So at the end of this debate, I think Saugata and I can still be friends. We are taking an extreme position. We have been placed at extreme ends of the platform, but truth will somewhere be in between. So in true academic fashion, he actually turned out the definition of insulated. He said, we are relatively better, and although we will come down from 8% to 6%, still we can call ourselves insulated. So that's difficult to argue with. I would say that whatever impacts us globally will impact us. If his definition is that we will still grow better than US or Europe, I think that is correct.
All right, Saugata, over to you. You have 2 minutes to refute any point you wish to.
Won't take that long. So, I mean, if we don't have different opinions, how can we make a market? To make a market, we need different opinions. So, of course, we need markets, different opinions to make a market. Obviously, we need to do that. But what, again, look at the conditions. And the question to ask now, obviously, I mean, whatever is going on in the world will have an effect on us. There is no doubt about that. The point now is to make sure that even if we slow down a little bit, our focus should be out for the next 10 years. We keep talking about a $7 trillion economy, 10 trillion, 5 trillion. 5 trillion to get, I mean now 7 trillion, 10 trillion, etc. What are the things that we need to do now to ensure that we keep on growing at 6.5%? Forget about what is happening in the near term, etc. And by the way, whatever has happened in the markets is actually very good for us, because whatever happened in the US banking has done half the Fed's job for them. So they will now go up only so much. Previously they would have gone up here, now there. So it makes life a whole lot easier for the RBI, for us. So now the focus should change from whether India is insulated. We should not be insulated. We should be integrated with the world. We are trying to internationalize our currency. We are trying to integrate into global value chains, etc. So all of that. But that's a different level of insulation. This is not the insulation to shocks. We should be insulated to shocks, but integrated with the global economy that enables us. No country, remember, in the history has ever grown at a sustained 6.5%, 7% growth, forget about 10% growth in China, if they are not focused on the export markets. So we need to increase our competitiveness, or we need to ask ourselves, what are the things that need to be done for us to grow at 6.5%, 7% consistently for the 10 years? That should be the focus of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. So now it's the last and final round. Rajiv, you get 3 minutes to close your argument.
Sure. I think broadly we are saying the same thing. It's just that we are in different camps. It almost sounds like different political parties rehashing the same thing over and over again. There is plenty to be done. We need to be more productive. We need to be more competitive. We need to get those exports coming in. We need to encourage local manufacturing and the Make in India policies, the production-linked incentives. All of these are wonderful long-term initiatives. I don't think there is any argument over there whatsoever. The challenge is, who will we export to? If the demand is constrained outside, there is no way that we can be stepping on the gas, stepping on the accelerator in India while the rest of the world is applying brakes. So while long term, things may work out, things may be positive, but as someone has said from the economics profession, in the long term, we are all dead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv. Over to you, Saugata. 3 minutes. Closing arguments.
Closing arguments. 3 again. I mean, Rajiv was very the model of brevity. So I'll also be that. So again, I mean, think about it in various formats. I mean, what are the things? Again, I don't want to go into the long term because we know. What is, again, and I'm very glad that this disproves my stance on the debate of our insulation. What has in India, a remarkable thing that has emerged is a huge increase in our services exports. Our merchandise exports has got hit. because of falling commodity prices, the slowing foreign global trade, etc. But our services, exports are booming. And it's not just the ITES services. Business services, professional services, all manner of services are now booming. This is something which needs to be taken out into the longer term. All of you must have heard of something called the Global Capability Centers. Because of the slowdown in the West, in the developed markets, the need to cut costs in those centers, there's a huge inflow of, we are known as the back office of the world, but gradually in the last 10 years or so, we have graduated to the mid office, right? All the analytics, the high-end analytics, the MIS systems, etc. Now we are going on and to the top level. We are actually designing. The semiconductor industry, which is the most debated, geostrategic, a strategically important industry. The semiconductor industry, the fabless part, which is the design part, the US giants, the Qualcomms, Broadcoms, Intels, etc. There are 80,000 engineers in India who actually do the design phase for this. So we are integrated to the world. We are not. I mean, so it's a boon to us that all these global capability centers. I just read in the papers today that Google has hired 3 million square foot of office space in Bangalore. Google, yeah? So again and again, I mean, services exports in India are booming. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if the PLI schemes, the other schemes that are being put in place, the CapEx programs of the government, and you have to give credit to the government, whatever your political views are, in terms of their management of the fiscal situation, they have done an excellent job. And this is what is now making India into that bright spot in the global economy. So hopefully, all our cylinders will be firing now. There are challenges. There are multiple challenges. We who are sitting in the room represent the top probably 0.1% of our total. There is a huge amount of inequality rising. So these need to be dealt with. I'm not saying. But again, we need to be integrated into the global economy, value chains, etc. We do not want to be insulated, but insulated in such a way that we are insulated from the shocks in the economy, not the other opportunities that India will see, inevitably see in the rest of the decade going forward.
Thank you. So very spirited argument by Rajiv and Saugata. I can see the audience has been very attentive. So would request you now to vote, please, just to see if there's been a change in the House view. I'll repeat the question for your convenience. Is India insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy? Press A if you agree, and B if you disagree. Your time starts now. All right, so the House view is pretty unchanged. We have the poll result, which says 62% continue to believe that India is not insulated from the global storm brewing in markets and economy. Thank you so much, Saugata, Rajiv, for this very spirited argument, and really thankful for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for being very attentive and very participative as well. Thank you.
Forbes India Leadership Awards 2023.